All right, so for anyone who's not familiar with me, my name is...
Yeah, go look it up.
Shall we write it on the board?
Dexter Gelfand. Oh. I'm sorry? Okay. Tatiana's going to write my website there.
And name.
Okay. Then I want to hear this now. Okay. What I am going to speak about is the subject of auditing over Skype. Okay. What I was going to say is, my name is Dexter Gelfand, or as I'm known to those who insist that unless L. Ron Hubbard specifically said it was okay to do it, it's not. I'm known as Satan. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, first of all, let me talk about how I came to audit over Skype. I never set out to do that. First I heard of it was somebody volunteered to give me some sessions over Skype regarding some material that I'd experienced. And, you know, I didn't entirely dismiss that person could have successfully done this with people. You know, I considered him very OT, and he is very OT. But for the most part, I didn't want to say this to him, but I thought that was pretty nuts. You know, it was pretty unreliable. And it wasn't a direction that I at all wanted to explore. And then sometime after that, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who was a Scientologist, who was geographically a long way away from me. And he was very distraught. He was talking about killing himself, you know. And sometimes, as an auditor, if you audit for long enough, you're going to encounter certain situations that it's not what you were prepared to do with your meter and your model session and a CS in front of you and whatever, but it just simply falls upon your shoulders to do something and make it go right. You know, of course, you don't have to be an auditor to have that happen. It happens to all of us anyway. But this was such a situation. You know, there's no saying, well, if you can ever make it out here, you know, or good luck with that. You know, you've got to do something in that situation. So I felt that the only option, the only choice was to put this guy in session over the phone. Okay? And that was just what the situation called for. It was necessity. You know, and I heard about holding the solo cans and getting the person's reads. You know, now I didn't take any time at that moment to figure out the mechanics of that. So it was one of those times, you know, the supreme test of the faith is to make it go right kind of a thing. And so I was simply going to do it. To be honest, I have no doubts it was going to work. Because it had to. You know, it was necessary that it worked. And so what I did was I did, okay, right now we're going to have a session. Just give me a moment. I went into my auditing room and turned on the meter and got my solo cans. And I'm an experienced solo auditor. So then I just got out my worksheets, and, like any other session, and I proceeded to run through an L1C with him. And, you know, how many people in this room have done the emitter drills on some course? Okay. You're familiar with emitter drill? I believe it's number 21 or 24. Consider the events of today. Okay, I kind of flashed back at when I first did that. You know, I trained, and I went home to my brother, who's not a Scientologist. I needed somebody to hold the cans. And I explained, okay, Scott, here's what I want you to do. Is hold these cans. I'm going to say consider the events of today. And I want you to just run through everything that happened today. At some point, I'm going to say that. Whenever I say that, okay, just note what was going through your mind, what the thought was, okay? And of course, you know, what I'm looking at is the meter, and I'm looking for something that's got a very discernible read. So then I can look for that same read again, and I tell him, okay, now at some point, go back to that same thought, and I should be able to tell you when you have that same thought again. And we did that, and he goes, yeah, that was it. That was the same thought, and we both went, son of a bitch, it works. You know, this is again what I experienced doing this L1C over the phone, holding the solo cans. It was a son of a bitch, it works moment. you know? And that's exactly what happened. There were no reads that did not indicate. There was no FN that didn't correspond with his reactions. And we got the ED of totally showing him out.
Yeah.
You know? And that's how that happened. You know? And obviously, you know, he had a bit more to do before he was out of the woods and not having that same material hit him in the face repeatedly. So we agreed to have regular sessions. And we did them over the phone. You know, and it worked just the same as if he was sitting there in front of me and holding cans. So what I learned from that was, you know, how do you audit over the phone or over the Skype? Well, it's 99% simply how do you audit. It's auditing. I mean, if you're a skilled, knowledgeable, experienced, successful auditor, it's just the next procedure to learn if you choose to, or if it's appropriate, if it falls upon your shoulders to do that. And from there, went on to doing Skype auditing, and I picked up a PC here and there. With Tatiana's help, I got a very effective website. Thank you. And I do this quite frequently now. And I say, at this moment, more than half of my PCs are Skype. I have PCs that come to me because it's traveling a distance that's real to them, and they don't have to take a sabbatical from their business or their job or whatever else they feel they must remain connected to. And I have PCs that one travel day a week where certain PCs in roughly the same area pay me a little bit extra to come out to them. And more than half of my PCs are now over Skype, and I've got PCs in Australia, and Munich, and Copenhagen, and New York, and New Jersey, and Austin, Texas, and Mississippi, and other places. You know, and so I kind of retroactively then got a better working knowledge of how and why it worked. Now, at its core, it really comes down to this: if the idea that you are a spiritual being, or fate, or whatever word you prefer, if that is truly real to you, then it's obvious that you shouldn't need to have two bodies in front of each other for auditing to occur. And I really feel that those people who feel that, well, how could that work? How could you get another person's reads if they're not holding the cans? They haven't well enough gotten past the idea that they're a body. You know? And the reason it works is the same reason auditing works when it does work, is that you're sufficiently occupying the same space as the PC, which means you're in very high ARC. You know? And it's not that you go anywhere. You know, I think in truth, we're all connected all the time. And case is largely about, it's about resisting things, those things that we resist, okay, that we're fighting or shrinking away from. And one of the ways we do this is by extending the idea of barriers and boundaries and personal space. This is your space and this is my space. And these are all considerations. These are created things, not a natural state. So in auditing without having the person right in front of you, it's just a greater acknowledgement that, you know, we're all here, you know, and not resisting that. You know, and I think that's the basis of why it works. But it's the same reason auditing works when the person's body is in front of you. You know, because unless you're processing a meat body, you're processing a being.
Dexter, can you clear one misunderstood for me?
Sure.
You're working with a client at a distance over Skype,
Right.
yet you're holding the cans.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he's getting the reads from the PC.
But he's holding the cans.
Right.
Right.
That's the thing that's blowing me away.
Well, very simply, if we're occupying the same space, then those facsimiles are in our space.
Oh, I got you.
Any shifting of mass is in our space.
I follow you, sure.
He's quite Vulcan.
Say that
What I know.
again. I didn't hear that.
It's a low combined now.
Oh, vocal
Yeah, but
mic,
out of
sure,
distance.
yeah.
Please.
My viewpoint is that we actually are the Christ consciousness, and we are them, they are us, always. And it's an illusion that we are not.
And yes, that's more or less what I was saying when I talk about these ideas that we are in separate locations from each other is a created illusion.
Yes.
Because we're not willing to experience that all sharing the same infinite space. So we have to set up boundaries, put things at whatever distance we can accept them from. Okay? Now, yes?
Can I, is that, I have a funny inkling that's very close to what, I don't know why, but I just picked that up, that was superpower built by LRH. Could that be?
Superpower is a rundown that's a series of actions. It's more than just one action. So, I mean, if you're saying, is that the overall ability gain from superpower? Well, my understanding is that's, well, not my understanding, but having read the HCOB, superpower was created because Ron felt that anyone who was clear or above could not be run on power processing. So this was a substitute rundown, series of processes intended to give comparable abilities gained and comparable results to what somebody who is not clear would get on power processing. This was approximately 1978. Yes, sir.
Why even use a meter?
I'm sorry?
Why even use a meter?
Why
If I could read or something that might be indicating the wrong in your case, why don't you just say it? Okay, I see this. The psychics do that all the time. Without a meter. That's not just.
Well, you know what? I think that's a question I think about. I think sometimes there are times when I use a meter just because I know the PC will be more comfortable with it. But overall, I don't feel that at this stage that I have realized the full ability to perceive everything going on in the PC's universe reliably enough and quickly enough that the meter is not of some value in filling in whatever I'm not perceiving. And that is the basic purpose of the meter, to fill in whatever the auditor cannot perceive about the PC without using the meter. Yeah.
I think it's just a little shift from emitter being the source of information, becoming the acknowledgement for something that you have perceived, and this piece of mechanic just acknowledges that that was right. So it's just kind of different value.
Well, let me just for a moment take this a little bit for you out of the realm of the idea that it's theoretical or experimental. Okay, let me give you a little bit of reality. This is something written by one of my PCs. And he asked me to publish it because it's like partially a success story, but it's mainly what it is he wants other people to have gains similar to his, and he wants other people to be able to not be restricted from going in session because they can't get to where the auditor is and take advantage of being able to audit over Skype. He wants to enlighten people so more people can benefit from this. So let me read part of this to you. Dex, thanks so much. I'm writing a success story right now, but I also recognize that I need to write something up about auditing over Skype. I've got some recent thoughts and cognitions about the advantages of auditing over Skype versus traveling to a distant location to get great professional auditing. I also think that I need to communicate about getting over the xenophobia in relation to auditing over Skype. I thought it was strange and really thought I was going off the deep end and entering squirreldom full force. A standard tech, ex-churchy like me, of course, was going to have alarm bells sounding in my head, but I had to try it at least. Let me fill you in. This PC has business connections with people that are very up in the church, so he has to stay below the radar. And he's spent, he told me, about $400,000 on auditing in the church. A lot of it in flag. So he's quite, he explains a little bit about that here. But anyway, he goes on to say, if it works, and if it doesn't, no harm, no foul. Thank goodness it works. This is such a huge, huge leverage point that I think a success story or essay actually needs to be written about it. Your metering has been better than Class 8 and Class 12 metering that I've experienced. Why? Because we're in ARC, and our purposes are aligned. Auditing with a high ARC auditor over Skype has been above and beyond what I've been able to get from FLAG auditors and my local orgs auditors. Auditing over Skype removes so many PTPs. Okay, we don't want to go into too much detail here about the obvious benefits of not having to travel and interrupt your life, but he goes on to explain the benefits and advantages. But just, I don't want to take the time to read the entire thing that he says here. It's available on my website. Anyone would like to see it, I'll be happy to share it with you. But the point is that here's somebody who had a great deal of experience with auditing, highly trained auditors in front of him, okay, who then experienced this, and he's speaking from that experiential viewpoint. Okay? Yes? Okay.
I can see how it would be easier if the ARC is high on the subject. What if you're dealing with a low-tone PC? Would that be more difficult to get correct reads?
I haven't experienced any difficulty to get reads from anybody that I've audited. Theoretically, see, it's you as the auditor that creates the ARC of the session. You know.
Right.
So,
okay, so let me qualify that. Say low case level of the ARC.
well, you know, let me answer that. I have to answer that from my own viewpoint, and you can consider this just my own viewpoint. Take from it whatever you will. I don't really think in terms of people as being of any particular level relative to any other people. I just don't see it that way. I see that there are things that hit people that on that particular material or subject, this is where they are. But overall, the idea of saying that somebody's at a case level, I don't find to be true. I understand that as we use it relative to the grade chart, we say, well, your case level is OT6, or your case level is grade 4, or grade 1, or ARC straight wire. But I don't see that there's necessarily a correspondence to where somebody is on anybody's chart to how well they function in life. We've seen some very high-functioning people who have never had a session, and we see people who are supposedly whatever high level they are, and you observe they're not doing well in life. So I don't peg anybody or judge anybody to be at any level, because I see that we all have ultimate potential, and anybody is capable to rising to any tone level in response to any particular thing if it's within their reality and addressed by them in a way that radiantly that they can experience.
Of course, but if they've not had their grade 2 case addressed in any way before coming into session, or if they have hidden standards, or this sort of phenomenon, are you going to see that? Can you find that?
Well, if there is something that needs to be addressed, whatever needs to be addressed, see, this is the beauty of the file clerk, if you understand from book 1. The file clerk, in 1950, I actually have a copy of the original publication from the Hubbard Dianetic Research Foundation, a month after the Dianetics book was released, where he first talks about the command, give you the incident necessary to resolve the case. Okay, that is true paralleling of mind. It does not mean that one incident run is going to resolve all of somebody's case, but it is what is currently impinging on the PC at this point in time the most. It is the outer layer of the case. It is a thing that if you don't address it first, you are bypassing charge. So whatever that may be, that's going to be what is wonderfully being presented by the file clerk, which is perfect and incapable of error, as long as it is not suppressed to run what you want to run on the PC instead of what they're presenting.
Exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful. And if you read the chapter once again, and I'm going to go do it myself, we have the same advice, called Description Processing in Phoenix Lectures, it'll answer all of that.
Right, but that's, by the way, that's That's R234, creation of human ability. Description processing.
No. This is description processing in the Phoenix lectures. He speaks about the clever auditor who comes up with the question that is exactly right for the pre-clear, that is then followed by the exact right question, that this is the most powerful auditing that can exist, and it is also the potential for the most messed up, screwed up auditing that could ever exist. But if you know the subject, know the pre-clear, know the space, know the technology, it is the most powerful, most rapid case advancing technique in existence, which is what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. In my view, in my experience, there is no more important principle to auditing than paralleling the mind. And it means paralleling that mind, not some imaginary standard of all minds. Now, as far as the grade chart goes and all the processes on the grade chart, I think every single one of those processes can be absolutely brilliant when it is the correct process for that particular being at that particular point in time. But I don't find the best approach to be to follow a set sequence that was written for everyone. And that's just the way I run it. I'm not suggesting that any other way is wrong. Okay? I think there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I think that all of us auditors, what we're doing is following our own conviction to do what we feel is best for our PCs. And I think that's a very honorable thing, and I respect and support all auditors for that reason. And I would like to see all other auditors respect and support all other auditors for that reason, instead of division over who's doing it the right way, which is a fixed solution. And I don't buy it myself. Yes?
Creative processes, okay, which they don't run anymore in the Church of Scientology. Creative processes was created by LRH, and that's pretty much, you don't use an emitter, you don't do anything. I've run a couple on my son. Just like two-way comm and blown a bunch of charge with them.
Oh, creation of human ability. That book. And some of those processes were he had help with some things, but they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. And I think the way I audit is a balance of negative and positive gain processing. And if you simply run engrams and incidents and ARC breaks, and you just simply run negative gain, you shrink the PC's havingness, and you indoctrinate them to look for just the next wrong thing or the next incident. And trying to process a case to a higher tone level that way can be an impossibility, because there is an incalculable number of incidents on the whole track, and you're not going to run them all in any 10 lifetimes. So you need to balance off negative and positive gain processing. That's what I do, and I find that that's what works best. And it's not done by writing a full program for the PC in advance and sticking to the program. It's by observing what is right for the PC next after what they've just manifested.
Yes, brilliant.